For hockey fans who grew up during the golden decades of the NHL, certain players were admired for their talent, while others were respected for something deeper. Respect is different from fame. Fame can come from goals, championships, or headlines. Respect is earned through character, leadership, sacrifice, and the way a man carries himself when nobody is watching. Few people understand that distinction better than Bryan Trottier. Over a career that spanned some of the greatest years in hockey history, Trottier shared the ice with legends, battled against Hall of Famers, and helped build one of the most successful dynasties the sport has ever seen. He experienced the physical battles of the 1970s, the explosive growth of the 1980s, and the changing face of professional hockey. Along the way, he met players whose influence reached far beyond statistics and trophies. Looking back today, Trottier often speaks about the values that made hockey special. He remembers players who led by example, players who earned admiration from teammates and opponents alike, and players who represented the very best qualities of the game. These were men whose reputations survived long after their careers ended because they stood for something greater than personal success. When Bryan Trottier reflects on the players he respected most, he is not simply naming great athletes. He is honoring the men who helped define what hockey was meant to be. Their stories remind us why so many fans still miss the era when respect mattered as much as victory. Bryan Trottier was born on July 17, 1956, in Val Marie, Saskatchewan. Raised in a hardworking family, he learned early that success meant very little without humility. Those lessons followed him throughout a remarkable hockey career that eventually placed him among the greatest players in NHL history. Yet despite all the goals, awards, and championships, Trottier never measured greatness solely by accomplishments. After joining the New York Islanders, Trottier quickly became one of the league's most complete players. He could score when needed, defend when necessary, and lead when the pressure was greatest. As the Islanders captured 4 consecutive Stanley Cups, his reputation grew throughout the hockey world. Coaches trusted him, teammates followed him, opponents respected him. More importantly, Trottier spent every season observing the players around him, learning what separated good players from truly great men. Some of those players became heroes long before he entered the NHL. Others were rivals who pushed him to improve. A few became teammates whose excellence he witnessed firsthand every day. Together, they shaped his understanding of leadership, professionalism, and character. When Trottier speaks about respect, he is speaking from experience earned across decades in the game. Among all the stars he encountered, 5 men left the deepest impression. Each represented a different form of greatness, and each helped define an era of hockey that many fans still remember with pride today. Number 5. Jean Béliveau, the gentleman every hockey player looked up to. Long before Bryan Trottier became a star in the National Hockey League, there were certain names that seemed larger than the game itself. One of those names was Jean Béliveau. To hockey fans, Beliveau was a champion, a scoring star, and a leader of the legendary Montreal Canadiens. To fellow players, however, he represented something even more valuable. He represented class. Trottier grew up hearing stories about Beliveau from older players and coaches who spoke about him with extraordinary admiration. What impressed him was that those stories rarely focused on statistics. Instead, people talked about the way Beliveau treated others. Whether he was speaking with teammates, fans, reporters, or opponents, he carried himself with dignity and respect. In a sport known for fierce competition and emotional rivalries, that reputation was incredibly rare. As Trottier entered professional hockey, he discovered that Belivau's reputation was not exaggerated. Everywhere he went, people described the same man. They talked about a leader who never sought attention for himself, despite winning countless championships. They spoke about a player whose influence extended far beyond the rink. Beliveau showed that greatness did not require arrogance. A man could be confident without being boastful, and powerful without being intimidating. Trottier admired the way Beliveau made leadership look effortless. Younger players naturally respected him because of the example he set every day. He understood that the most effective leaders often speak through their actions rather than their words. That lesson stayed with Trottier throughout his own career. Many players leave behind records. Some leave behind championships. Very few leave behind a reputation that remains untarnished decades after retirement. Jean Béliveau accomplished all 3. For Bryan Trottier, that combination of excellence and character made him one of the most respected figures hockey has ever known. That is why he begins this list At number 5. Number 4. Bobby Orr, the superstar who changed hockey forever. When Bryan Trottier thinks about players who transformed the sport itself, one name immediately comes to mind. Bobby Orr was not simply a great defenseman. He changed the way people understood what a defenseman could be. Before Orr, most defenders were expected to stay in their own zone, protect the net, and support the offense when opportunities appeared. Orr rewrote those rules completely. By the time Trottier was developing as a young player, Orr had already become one of hockey's biggest legends. His speed, creativity, and confidence with the puck made him unlike anyone the game had ever seen. He could defend against the league's best forwards and then lead the attack moments later. Fans were amazed by what they saw. But players often appreciated his brilliance even more because they understood how difficult it was to accomplish. What impressed Trottier most was the courage Orr displayed every night. Hockey during that era was incredibly physical. Opponents targeted star players constantly, yet Orr continued to play with an aggressive style that pushed the game forward. He accepted the risk because he believed that was the best way to help his team win. Even as injuries began to affect his career, he never stopped competing. Trottier also respected Orr for the way he handled fame. Few players in hockey history became as popular as Bobby Orr. Despite the attention, he remained approachable and grounded. Younger players looked up to him not only because of his talent, but because of the example he set away from the ice. His humility matched his greatness, a combination Trottier always admired. Every generation has athletes who leave a permanent mark on their sport. Bobby Orr did more than leave a mark. He changed hockey's future. Countless defensemen who followed tried to imitate his style, and many of the skills seen in today's NHL can be traced back to the path he created decades ago. For Bryan Trottier, Bobby Orr was more than a superstar. He was a revolutionary figure whose impact continues to be felt throughout the game, making him an easy choice for number 4. Number 3, Gordie Howe, the toughest man Bryan Trottier ever admired. Few names in hockey history carry the weight and respect of Gordie Howe. Long before Bryan Trottier reached the NHL, Howe had already become a symbol of everything that made the sport special. He could score goals, deliver hard checks, withstand punishment, and compete with a determination that seemed almost impossible to match. For many fans, he was simply known as Mr. Hockey. For Trottier, he was one of the greatest examples of toughness the game had ever produced. What separated Howe from so many other stars was his complete approach to hockey. He was not known for one particular skill. He excelled in every area of the game. He could dominate offensively, defend himself physically, and inspire teammates through his relentless effort. Opponents respected him because they knew there were no weaknesses to exploit. Every shift required total concentration. Trottier admired the way Howe competed across multiple generations. Most athletes struggle to remain effective as younger players enter the league. Howe seemed to challenge that reality. Year after year, he continued proving he belonged among the best. His longevity became legendary. Younger stars entered the NHL hoping to build their own reputations, only to discover that Gordie Howe was still setting the standard. Another quality that earned Trottier's respect was Howe's fearlessness. Hockey during Howe's era was demanding and often brutal. Protective equipment was limited, travel was difficult, and physical confrontations were common. Yet Howe never complained about the conditions. He embraced them. He understood that challenges were part of the profession and faced them with remarkable confidence. Perhaps most importantly, Howe earned admiration from virtually every corner of the hockey world. Fans loved him. Teammates trusted him. Rivals respected him. Very few athletes have ever united an entire sport in that way. Even decades after his prime, his name remains synonymous with excellence. For Bryan Trottier, Gordie Howe represented the ideal hockey player. Tough but disciplined, competitive but respected, talented but humble. Those qualities made him more than a legend. They made him a role model whose influence stretched far beyond the score sheet. That is why Gordie Howe stands proudly at number 3 on this list. Number 2, Mike Bossy, the teammate who made greatness look easy. Bryan Trottier respected many players throughout his career, but very few earned his admiration the way Mike Bossy did. Unlike some names on this list, Bossy was not a distant hero from a previous generation. He was a teammate, a friend, and one of the most gifted goal scorers Trottier ever saw up close. Watching him every day gave Trottier a unique understanding of just how extraordinary he really was. When people discuss great scorers, they often focus on numbers. Bossy's numbers were certainly remarkable. Season after season, he found ways to put the puck in the net with a consistency that seemed almost impossible. Yet what impressed Trottier most was how effortless Bossy made everything appear. He was never the loudest player on the ice. He rarely needed dramatic displays to attract attention. Instead, he relied on intelligence, timing, and an instinct for the game that few players have ever possessed. Playing together on the New York Islanders, Trottier witnessed firsthand how much preparation and discipline existed behind that apparent ease. Fans often saw only the goals. Teammates saw the dedication. Bossy studied opponents, carefully understood where opportunities would develop, and consistently placed himself in the perfect position. His success was not luck. It was the result of exceptional hockey intelligence combined with relentless commitment. Trottier also respected the way Bossy handled success. During the Islanders' dynasty, attention followed the team everywhere. Championships brought fame, recognition, and enormous expectations. Through it all, Bossy remained remarkably humble. He focused on winning rather than personal accomplishments. That attitude helped create the culture that made the Islanders one of hockey's greatest dynasties. Perhaps the greatest compliment Trottier could offer was simple. Every player on the team knew they were witnessing something special. Even among future Hall of Famers, Mike Bossy stood apart. His ability to score, his professionalism, and his dedication to the team earned the respect of everyone around him. For Bryan Trottier, Mike Bossy was more than a superstar teammate. He was a reminder that true greatness often appears simple only because the person performing it is exceptional. That combination of talent, humility, and excellence places Mike Bossy at number 2. Number 1, Wayne Gretzky, the player. Bryan Trottier believed elevated hockey to another level. When Bryan Trottier reflects on the players he respected most, the final spot belongs to a man whose influence reached far beyond championships records or individual awards. Wayne Gretzky changed the way people viewed hockey. He changed the way it was played, discussed, and appreciated. More importantly, he helped introduce the sport to millions of new fans who may never have discovered it otherwise. Trottier competed during an era filled with extraordinary talent. The NHL featured Hall of Famers across every position, and earning recognition was never easy. Yet Gretzky consistently separated himself from everyone around him. What made him unique was not simply his production. It was the way he seemed to understand the game at a level few others could comprehend. He often appeared to know where the puck would go before anyone else on the ice. That intelligence impressed Trottier more than any statistic. Great athletes are usually faster, stronger, or more skilled than their opponents. Gretzky possessed remarkable skill, but his greatest weapon was his mind. He processed situations instantly and found opportunities that others never noticed. Teammates benefited from his vision. Opponents struggled to predict his decisions. Fans witnessed plays they had never imagined possible. Trottier also respected the responsibility Gretzky carried throughout his career. As hockey's biggest star, expectations followed him everywhere. Every game attracted attention. Every performance was analyzed. Despite that pressure, Gretzky remained dedicated to representing the sport in a positive way. He understood that he was more than a player. He had become an ambassador for hockey itself. Another reason Gretzky earned Trottier's admiration was his impact on future generations. Countless young players began playing hockey because of what they saw him accomplish. His success helped expand the sport beyond traditional markets and introduced hockey to entirely new audiences. Few athletes in any sport can claim such influence. For Bryan Trottier, respect has always been about more than talent. It is about character, leadership, consistency, and lasting impact. Wayne Gretzky embodied all of those qualities. He was not only the greatest player many fans had ever seen, he was a figure who elevated the entire game and left it stronger than he found it. That is why when Bryan Trottier names the 5 men he respected most, Wayne Gretzky stands alone at number 1. Looking back at these 5 names, a pattern quickly emerges. Bryan Trottier did not choose these men simply because they won championships or collected awards. He respected them because each represented a different quality that helped make hockey great. Jean Béliveau showed the power of class and dignity. Bobby Orr demonstrated how one player could change an entire sport. Gordie Howe embodied toughness and determination. Mike Bossy proved that greatness and humility could exist side by side. Wayne Gretzky elevated hockey to heights few thought possible. Together, these men helped shape the game Trottier loved throughout his life. They influenced generations of players, inspired millions of fans, and created standards that still guide hockey today. Their accomplishments remain impressive, but their character may be even more important. Long after the goals, assists, and championships are forgotten, the respect they earned continues to endure. For older NHL fans, these names bring back memories of hockey's most unforgettable eras. They remind us of a time when leadership mattered, when loyalty was valued, and when respect had to be earned every single night. Those lessons remain just as relevant today. And perhaps that is the greatest tribute Bryan Trottier can offer. In a sport filled with legends, these were the men who stood above the rest. Not merely because they were great players, but because they were great examples of what hockey could be at its very best.